What I was specifically interested in as an ex band kid myself is how music education has been affected with COVID. And at first, what were the immediate struggles of teaching chorus or band when the shutdown started happening? And during answers, I'm going to mute myself just to make sure that there was no background noise from my end. Um, Karen, we'll start with you on that. What were the struggles at first in terms of teaching chorus or band when shutdown started happening from your experience?
Honestly, I think the hardest, most immediate struggle was handling how heartbroken our students and families were with performances and festivals and competitions first postponed and then later canceled one after the next. That was a really hard emotional toll on the students and the teachers, and finding a way to come back together and continue to make music despite sort of the open wound was tough.
And Joe or Don, would you like to add to that?
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, yeah, I would just say the hardest part is that losing of the connection to the family. As Karen said, many seasons got uprooted and interrupted, whether that's concert season or winter guard or indoor drumline season. You know, you've been working for a goal and you've been working towards that goal with one another, and just to have that uprooted and halted was really rough. Logistically, it was hard. We couldn't really have band totally 100% virtual, so we really had to switch to private lessons, and doing that, we saw a mixed amount of engagement. Some students really flourished in that environment, and some students felt a little insecure putting themselves out there and on a screen individually to receive that detailed feedback.
And Don, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, one of the most difficult things for me is to only be able to hear one student at a time when you're looking at a bunch of kids on the screen. And because of technology, things that I'm not really that great at, like I've had to really depend on my colleagues to help me through that. In particular, Mr. Sork, who has come to my aid a lot of times when I just got confused and didn't know how to do things. So I imagine that if I'm an adult that has been teaching as many years as I have been, the students were struggling with the technology, parts of it as well. And then they wouldn't show themselves on screen, so we couldn't really see them, So those types of things, those connections that had to come through a computer screen instead of live and in person was really a struggle for me, and I think for students as well. And as Mr. Stork alluded to, some students just didn't catch on quickly, and maybe some teachers like me as well.
So at the beginning, how did your virtual strategy look like? You alluded to you had to do one-on-one virtual lessons essentially, which I would imagine would be a nightmare because webcam quality and trying to hear music over it's probably um, ear achingly bad, depending on the quality of it. So, how did that virtual strategy start, and how did it eventually mold? Whoever would like to start can jump in.
Honestly, we didn't have a virtual strategy to start. It was just on us. It was insane and it was overwhelming. Initially, we were all trying to figure out how to keep our programs and curriculum moving and revolving around what we thought we might return to. So taking a look at songs that we were working on and analyzing them in different ways online, so we couldn't sing together or play together at that point. And eventually that started to shift when it became clear that we're not coming back, and we're certainly not going to be putting on the performance that we thought we were. So having that information come down from the governor really freed us up to go, okay, we at least have answers now. How are we going to approach this? And certainly at the middle school choral level, we were doing a lot of fundamentals, a lot of choice, trying to get kids to engage and enjoy and have some options. So it definitely transitioned. Now I would say it's completely different, a lot of different activities, and it's really enriched by the fact that music teachers across the globe have really come together, and there are a ton of resources that exist now that are being shared freely among us that didn't exist before. So I'm able to find some really incredible like clap along videos that are highly engaging to my kids, that get them up and moving, that I didn't have when all of this began.
And just as a quick follow up, how was, so you said from the governor, how were you planning when you didn't know what was going to happen? How did that work?
So when we thought perhaps we would be coming back to what we had left behind, we were still saying, okay, here's a page of the chorus music that we were working on memorizing. Let's work lyrics. Let's have you guys practice looking at repeat signs and where's the layout. Can we analyze some of the dynamics of the song? What are we going to be working on to keep it going and fresh, even though we weren't rehearsing, hoping that perhaps we could come back together.
Yeah, I'd like to add to tried and true methods that, maybe I studied when I was a student of that age, that it really helped me with my musicianship. Some of the things, we really do communicate very well in our band office. And again, my colleagues who are great and those types of things like that, we have the opportunity to talk to each other and say, what are you working on? And we started doing a little bit more rhythm reading and breaking down of rhythms. But tried and true methods, like, things that I know that work, not every student is able to still do, the same kind of quality of exercise, or demand of exercise as some of the other younger students, perhaps, or the freshmen compared to a senior. So, getting creative with lesson planning as far as like putting the right material for the right students in to that day's lesson really came more crucial than, ever has in the past. So.
Yeah, I want to say, in addition to all of that, when this first happened, and we didn't have a lot of guidance, I agree with that. We did a lot of that. And then when we kind of knew that we weren't coming back until who knows, we really focused a lot of that time on connecting to students, trying to use music as that vehicle, but really first thing first, make sure these students feel comfortable even talking to you. We have Catter Day every Wednesday or something like that. Just getting these kids to remember what a community is like.
Well said.
So what were some of those methods that, Don, that you said that worked for you, that you were trying to at least let kids know about? It may or may not work for them because everyone practices differently. What were some of those methods that you were trying to relay?
Well, for me, being, I would say, like more of a brass person that, really, the way we have our lesson groups split up really does probably play to our best features. Knowing that, what works for a trumpet player to develop his higher range, or how do we keep somebody, like thinking that, okay, there's musicianship involved in this, not just notes. And I think that all of us really took, in our band office, again, I'm not in the middle school, so I want to say Mr. Stark and I really did talk about how can we continue to improve musicianship with these students and let them know that there's more than just notes. However, like as Mr. Stark said earlier, the importance of them staying in the program depends on us giving them a way to stay in the program and not discourage them because the lessons are too hard, or the lessons have too much in them from a content standpoint. So, we do work together. Like to me, my tagging guy is Mr. Stark. I have to say, like without him, I would have been lost in technology a long time ago. And, having colleagues that are willing to say, okay, you're the old guy. You didn't teach this way when you were teaching, when you first started teaching. So, knowing that I have some struggles with technology and things like that, I have to really congratulate and thank my colleagues for helping me too, because the students don't know either. Some of them just don't know how to use Google Meet, Google Classroom. They're not that comfortable with it. And some are just not willing to show themselves on screen, and we can't make them, you know? And so if I'm trying to correct a certain thing that I know has to be, I have to see it, not only hear it. Sometimes you just can't do that. So hope that answers that part.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That's definitely one of the biggest struggles. Not having the in person is, especially as I'm going to talk as a percussionist, you know, being able to see their hands. Like I can to some extent hear, okay, they're squeezing too much in the front. Let's talk about spreading that pressure along the hands, and just kind of knowing their age, assume a lot of that as well. But nothing really can replicate just being like, okay, no, I see you're totally letting go of the fulcrum. Let's get that in, or like keep your heights down and being able to set a physical barrier so they don't play above that. I can't really do that. I can go like this, hey, you know, that's kind of like a hand reaching into their living room, so they get it a little bit, but it's not quite the same.
And Karen, how have younger kids, how have younger ones adapted to this situation? Because if you're dealing with young choral students or young band students, which I've never seen, my experience with band drops down to 6th grade and that's it. We don't go any lower. How have those students specifically adapted to this virtual mess that education is stuck in right now?
Well, in some cases, the beauty for some of them is that they are brand new to it or relatively new. And so they don't necessarily know any different. And so it's on the teacher to get in there and get them and find a way to reach them and make some bonds and help them get started on their instrument and those basic skills. One of our elementary music teachers in band has got a private YouTube channel going, and he made a bunch of videos where there's a lot of detail about how to put your instrument together and where to put your fingers, embouchure, and he's broken all of these little things down. He's made play along videos, and the kids really enjoy being able to get in there live in person, but then they can practice on their own. It has put most of us as teachers in a very vulnerable position. We put a lot of time and energy into prepping the best materials we can, and we don't always get to know how well it's received or if the kid's even there necessarily until later on. And we're going to put it out there and keep putting it out there and hope that it does what it needs to do. And more often than not, I feel like we're finding that the kids really are engaging and growing. It may be at a slower pace. It may take the teacher longer to figure out exactly what that student needs, but it's happening.
Along those lines too, I just want to add, because I'm going to talk about my own personal experience. You know, I've had to be okay with allowing students to know I don't know that much about, you know, like some of the things that we had to change to, you know, so allowing them, oops, I just made a mistake. I just threw you out of the Google Classroom on accident, you know, like, because it happens to me once in a while. And then I have to, you know, pull people back in, or, you know, I just didn't do it right. And I think, you know, like, I'm not sure if I don't think students laugh about that. I think what they do is they say, yeah, he's human just like me. I make the same mistakes, you know. And as a teacher, I think that it's shown, in my case anyway, a little bit more vulnerability, and that maybe connects to the students a little bit more. So I don't know. That's a thought from me. Timer.
I'll say that one of the struggles that we have both then and now is when students are home, they're not always able to make music at home at the time that we need them to make music. You know, we might have band or chorus rehearsal and like, we're gonna sing and we're gonna do whatever the case may be, but dad has been on an overnight and he's finally home, but he's sleeping and they can't play their trumpet. They can't sing right now. And so maybe they're going to be fingering along with their instruments. things we really didn't anticipate when we went into this. There are all sorts of reasons why a student might not be able to do what we hope they can do when we want them to do it. So we've got to be creative and find different opportunities and be really flexible.
Yeah, I'm very proud to say that we have had we had our Bandtoberfest, and we had our competition band show that we always have. And it wasn't the same. Obviously, we had to do it all virtually, but, we had a chance to do some concert prep, and things like that, or show preps. And, being, like having that for students to be able to still feel somewhat normal. Oh, good. We're preparing for, our Christmas concert. And, like, even though we can't have them all play at the same place at the same time, they learn the same material. And I think that kept them thinking, okay, there's a Christmas concert coming up. I think it also helped parents to still stick with us through this too. They saying, man, you guys are trying at least, I do want to put that part in there myself. We are trying very hard, and I'm not ashamed or not afraid to say that I depend on Mr. Stork totally on some things. I just say, I don't know, I'm not sure, you know what I'm saying? And, me being the older teacher and him being the younger teacher, we have developed that kind of a relationship and trust in each other to say, okay, I know you're going to do what part you say you're going to do. And I know that I can help you doing this part. So maybe we can, coordinate that to make sure that it's all about the kids, always going to be about the kids. And, not how much I know or he knows or Mr. Ellison knows. It's about how much the kids like it about band and want to stay in band. We don't want to lose students. So we'll do what we have to do. And if that's admitting that I'm not perfect, that's okay.
And on the subject of the kids, so when students are allowed back in the buildings, and who knows when that will be, do you have a plan in place? If so, what is it? And I know that's a bit of a loaded question, but if
Karen, do you
have
want
a
to talk
plan-
about our hybrid model that we're currently operating under?
Certainly. So right now we do have students in the building, and my goodness, it is such a blessing to walk down the hallway and hear music coming out of the band room. There is not a moment when that happens where I don't stop for at least a second and just take it all in, and sometimes honestly fight a few tears. It's so powerful. So music is happening. Music is happening live in person. It looks different because we have a 12-foot radius that has to happen between students and teachers. So we can't even fit the right number of people all together in the same room. So they are happening in smaller groups, but they are happening in the building. At the same time, we have students tuning in at home. So we are teaching music live in front of us, while in theory, we have students that are also playing at home. Now, some of those kids are playing along with us. We can't hear them. We have to trust them with what we see that they're doing it. Others might be just doing the fingerings or are mouthing whatever they can do to make sure that they are participating with us. They may be working on their rhythm skills and not their pitch matching because they can't actually make the music out loud, but they're doing something to stay involved while they're at home. So that's an incredible blessing for us. We are really, really grateful that Corning Painted Post has been so supportive. It was never a question of if will we do this, it's how will we do this? And they've been committed to that from day one and are continuing to find ways to expand those opportunities for our kids even now in this hybrid model.
100% blessed to be in this district that is committed to meeting all the needs of our students. One thing I want to talk a little bit about is we are using PPE equipment that we've recently distributed to our students. This is a bell cover. It's over the bell. This is a brass buddy that we collect through the water keys. Yes, exactly. So we are taking measures, of course, social distancing measures, as well as sanitation measures to keep the students safe and make sure that we're not the cause of anything but a good time.
that green bottle she just held up just had like a flood of, because
No.
that's used prior to COVID. Because
Absolutely.
gotta spray down mouthpieces and all that.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
We just have bigger bottles now.
Yeah, I've never seen a bottle that big.
Yeah.
So how does that so the PPE, Joe, on the ends of bells, does that affect the sound in any way?
Very limited, not really much at all, especially in woodwinds, because really a lot of the sound comes out of the keys in the woodwinds. So we kind of take a different approach to that, but not discernibly.
No.
Please
And
tell
then
me
the
they make them for tubas.
Oh yeah, it's like this
They
big.
do.
It's so they're like
Tuba covers.
oh, there it is.
There it
It's a
is.
cover more than a cover. Yeah. And,
Giant beret.
about it, like I'm one of the proponents of, if you got something covering up your bell, play with more air type of thing like that. You know what I'm saying? So how come I can't hear you? Well, it's not because you got this thing over your bell. It's because you're not playing with enough air. So, and the kids get a kick out of it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, these are important, necessary things, to only have a half a band in front of you or not, the right instrumentation to have something sound correct is more of a struggle for me. And, being more kind of like a band purist, I want to hear from the tubas up to the flutes and the percussion all working together, and that has not happened so far this year. We try. I mean, we, again, like saying that we recorded cohorts, 2 different cohorts using a metronome and then combining those 2 together to promote a concert. Again, I couldn't do that by myself, but my colleagues can. So we work with each other. Again, I think the most important thing to come out of this whole interview here is how this doesn't work until we work together as colleagues in our office, and in particular, and for me, it's the high school. And again, I can't, I'm not going to say it anymore, but Mr. Stark, Mr. Allison, those people, have a little bit more concept of the technology things that I don't. But what I offer is some experience in other areas. So we thread off of each other to make this whole thing work.
I'm going to dovetail real quick, just talk about those 3 virtual performances that we did put together, that being the Crystal City competition, Bandtoberfest, and the their holiday concert rather. And we didn't do the same method for each production, okay? Some of those methods were each student individually recording with a click track, and then we mixed it. Some of those methods were, as Mr. Allen just talked about, cohort A records with a metronome quiet as we can, and then cohort B records as well to get that full instrumentation. Then we really have to carefully mix that to watch out for distortion and overload of sound. And then even another one is that, okay, cohort A plays the beginning of this song, cohort B plays the middle. I think that was a really advantageous for us because we only see these groups for 2 days a week. So trying to get them through the whole song was really difficult. So we did use a number of strategies to create those. And we have another concert coming out in the end of February, a Prism concert. So look out for some more information about that.
And again, that doesn't work without, coordination and cooperation with your colleagues, the thing is that you record one half of the band and it's 3 clarinets, tuba, maybe 3 trumpets and a trombone. Then the other half of the band is completely different instrumentation. And to line those things up, I mean, I have to say I'm really proud of myself and the colleagues to keep trying to make this normal, and I know that the parents appreciate it.
Having the tangible product has definitely allowed the kids and given the kids more motivation, as Mr. Allen said earlier, to complete that. And it's, having it happen asynchronously has been unique, and all families can watch it together wherever they are, even if they're at work on their phone, they can check it out. So that's been a really positive.
Karen, when they mentioned the Prism concert, you tried to say something. What?
That was just. I did. That was the first I'd heard of it. I was. It's a great Prism concert. Is just such a special event.
Breaking news in this interview.
Yeah. Let's make sure I get it on the calendar.
The Prism concert is also normally done with coordination of lights and colors. And it's a prism, you know, like a prism. The music is being played through a prism, you know, and that may probably won't be a major part of the performance this year. But making it normal for the students, hey, Prism concert's coming up, gives them something to own. Another performance and that concert is more smaller groups, individual performances, things like that. And it also coordinates in the past with the chorus. And we hope to actually do that again, you know, so it's not just band instruments performing at the Prism concert. It's also, you know, different things.
At the intermediate level, both elementary and middle school, we have many students who are still really developing their basic skills. They don't have the independent musicianship the same way that the high schools often do. So there's been less of an emphasis on performance and more of an emphasis on developing basic skill and musicianship in the practicing and the singing and playing that we're doing. So it's been a different driving vehicle. It hasn't been, well, we're going to put on a concert, so that's our lens for how we're working. And students have been really good about buying into the process. And really, truly, music making has always been about the process, not the product. It's that journey that we have day in and day out, and watching the growth and the relationships develop. So there's been an increased focus on those basics here at the intermediate level.
Yeah, high school too. Go ahead.
So kind of moving on to the next question, but do you have something to add?
No, I think that what Karen said is absolutely correct. I think that we have some basic, you know, like pedagogically, you know, like firm things that we do, and they will stay as part of our program. But I mean, you know, we have 3 different levels of performance, and just the way the band is set up in the high school, you know, we have a concert band, and then, you know, like our bands are actually developed by, you know, abilities and what grade students are in. And, you know, like a symphonic band is like in the middle level, but reaching up into the higher level. The concert band is mostly freshmen. And then there's the wind ensemble, who are chosen by audition. And, you know, I'm very proud of that band. You know, like you can give them material that is of the highest level. You know, Mr. Stark with the symphonic band, he takes a lot of pride in that. And Mr. Ellison with the concert band. So we try to place, you know, normally we would do it by, you know, extensive audition right after marching band season was over with. You know, like, but this year we didn't get a chance to do that. But, you know, we do know sort of what band people should be in by their talent level and sometimes grade. Yeah. Joe, you want to add to that? Because I mean, you know, that's kind of how we have things set up.
No, we just had our auditions held through video submission, which was a little painstaking to review.
So 2 questions. They're kind of bounce off one another. Everyone on this Zoom call is a human. How are you? How are you doing? Like, legitimately. Whoever wants to answer first, go.
Well,
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Donnie.
No, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as we came back to school and there are students, I am doing a lot better. I'll tell you what, it was rough March through summer. It was like an extended summer, which is great, except for you couldn't go anywhere. So even through the summer, Donnie and I, and maybe Karen herself, I don't know, are involved in educational opportunities. Donnie and myself through teaching drum and bugle corps, and that didn't happen. So that's really our lives, and not having that was really hard. Having the students back is great. It's more difficult. Like we have to bring 200% to get 50 out of the students, kind of, you know, and that's not their fault. They've lost a lot of the ability or maybe desire to communicate and to express, and that's directly reflected through their playing. Not to mention their loss of repetition and muscle building and technique that kind of occurred. but overall doing okay. We started up jazz band, Foley, indoor drumline, full participation, winter guard going on full participation, and those things have helped as educators us a lot. I know, a little selfish, but man, I got to see these kids and got to hear the music, and it just drives me. So we're getting better.
I'd jump on Mr. Stork's, his whole comment list that he just went through. It's very important for me to see students and to know that I'm worth something sometimes, because, like I know that I'm a good music teacher, but if I can't prove it, sometimes, it's a struggle. The technology is a struggle for me at times. But if I'm, I have to be honest and I have to be truthful to students that I don't know how to do something, or to my colleague and say, Joe, please, can you help me with this? I know you showed me this before, and that's my story. You know what I'm saying? My story is I know that you showed me how to do this before. I can't remember how to do it. I'm an older teacher. This technology did not exist when I started teaching music. So how am I doing? Emotionally, I wish there was full band. I want to hear the full band. Psychologically, there are days that I don't do as well. And I'm not going to, I let students know, I let my colleagues know for sure. My colleagues know me pretty well, especially Mr. Stark. We've known each other for decades. And when something's wrong, they'll come and say, are you all right? And we do the same to each other, How are we doing? Depending on what day it is, I think, and what the circumstances are. If I heard a bunch of trumpet players that knew all their stuff that I just gave to them last week, I'm joyful. If I hear a clarinet player that is the same as a junior as they were as a freshman, I'm still joyful because they come to band. And if they don't have the ability and the talent to get where I would hope that they would get to, sometimes I just have to realize that is, we continue to teach. We continue to care. We continue to show students that we care enough about them that we're going to teach them no matter what. I don't know how unique it is, but I do know at Corning Painted Post district that there is a lot of love between colleagues and a lot of care for students that comes out of that. And I think I explained that the correct way.
Karen, would you like to add anything?
I will say I am grateful for my colleagues. We have definitely bonded more this year through this hybrid model and being grouped together. I've never seen my colleagues as much as I do now, and I'm really grateful for that. And I feel like that's going to impact us all, both personally and professionally, for years to come. On a personal note, we typically give up a lot of nights and weekends to do a variety of different things with our students. And though I miss all of those things and the time with my students terribly, I am blessed with the opportunity to be home with my family more. My husband's also a music teacher in the area. And our lives usually revolve around school. And now they still do, but they revolve so much more around our sons and working together as a family. And it's been nice to have less rushed dinners at the table together and hear them making music at home. So, there are good things that come. And some days I'm great and some days I'm not.
Yeah.
But together we're all okay.
And to follow up on that, how do you think the kids are doing? This is weird. Life is weird now. It has been for over a year, or getting close to a year, right at a year. So how are they doing?
Can I jump in to start that conversation?
Sure.
Fantastic. So just like we are, so some days the kids are great and some days they're not. And they're pretty good about telling you which is which. But the fact that they're telling us and communicating it all is a really great, healthy thing. Honestly, there are many kids that are thriving that I would not have expected. There are kids who have dug down deep and found the courage to be leaders in this environment that perhaps never would have had the need because they were in bigger groups and somebody else took the lead and that was okay. So I've seen incredible growth, not just as musicians, but as human beings from many of these students. And it's truly impressive. And it's those silver linings really are really helpful. And I appreciate it very much when they turn their camera on, even for a moment, to show you that smile. It might go right back off, but they give you a moment of humanity and they let you know the connection is there and not lost on them. So I wish I could say that they're all thriving. That's certainly not the case, but I'd say more often than not, we're all relying on each other, and the kids as well are doing okay.
I never thought that I would miss a chatty ensemble, running an ensemble. Never thought I would miss saying, "Hey,
Quiet
let's
down.
go." Yeah, no, it's like the opposite. I'm like, can you please disrespect me and talk? Like, we're humans. Like, come on. And I keep telling them, you got to bring the energy to the room. Okay, the room's not going to bring any energy to you. Okay, so if we each just bring a little bit more energy, like this is the first thing we're doing in the day, and it's going to make your day great. And as I alluded to earlier, students have seemed to lose just a little bit of ability or motivation to communicate to each other on a personal level, but them being 12 feet apart is hard to do anyway. So they would be screaming. So we do, again, that's one of the biggest things, man. I just want these kids to be kids again and to experience the death look from Mr. Stork because you're talking when he's talking. Like I would just love to do that. And again, that reflected in their playing, like play the horns. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's the wrong note. Play it. Let's be loud and proud and make some sound, and then we can refine it from there. So a main thing is continuing to make sure that this culture is all inclusive, it's encouraging, and it's positive.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Stark on this one too. I mean, to show students, again, our own humanness and our own, I think that, like this is very unique school district because our administration wants to get back to work. They know how much we like to do these extracurricular activities, which we do love to do, and to show the kids how much we love them, to be able to have marching band and be able to have a competition season and a parade season and jazz ensemble and all the things that we're saying that, like are not specialties that we do, but I mean, like we do have some things that we're, hey, we have some ability at teaching because of experience that we have. And I think that the students really, really identify with that, the drummers identify with Mr. Stark. I mean, just like, boom, there they are. Maybe the jazz kids or some of the marching band kids who are in the performance band may, like gravitate to some of the things that I do. Having the amount of activity that is available at the Corning Painted Post School District is very unique in any place I've ever been at. We have 2 marching bands in the fall. One competes and one does football games. And then there's still another band who just does the concert band season for students that don't want to be in marching band, but they want to be in the music department, or they want to have us in a band. During the winter, we have 3 concert bands, again, done by, level of ability and, a commitment to excellence and, the preparedness and things like that. And in the spring season, we still don't know how it's going to go, but we do have a big, huge marching band that is 2 bands combined, the competition band and the performance marching band. And, like we go down the street and people in this area and other areas say, did you see the size of that band? Did you see how many kids are in that band? And, like the pride comes from being able to have that many students in our band. You know what I'm saying? We don't give up. I'm going to say that, and I'm going to say our own resilience comes from love and care and like how much music means to us and trying to convey that music can mean this much to the students as well. I think that, like for me, like I love music and I want students to love music. So if there's any way possible I can show them how much I love it, maybe they can, pick up on some of that.
And is there anything else that anyone would like to say before we wrap up?
If I could have the opportunity, I would just like to address some of the other music making things that are happening in the district. I know here at the middle school, Mrs. Griffin is starting her middle school drama club production. It looks a lot different. It's a little more laborious to get through all of the steps, but they're trying to do that. At the elementary school, we have some of our teachers have found a way to put together some take-home music kits so that even when kids are remote, they have some things that feel like musical instruments. They've taken like little wooden dowels for rhythm sticks and little shakers and movement scarves. And turns out the kids are absolutely enamored with them. And heaven forbid they leave their kits somewhere and they have to tune in for the remote day without it. They're just devastated. But it's really given them the opportunity, I think, to see music making as something that happens outside of school. It's something that can happen in the home, hopefully later happen in the community. So it's really taken music out. We've been able to send recorders home with kids. We may not be able to play those recorders in person if we can't do 12-foot distancing, but we can take the tops off those recorders and finger along while the kids at home get to play those recorders. I'm sure not all the parents are thrilled about that all the time, but it brings a lot of joy to those kids and is developing some really good fundamental skills that will hopefully turn into some pretty great musicians as they continue to grow. So we're really excited about those things that are happening. And we have a strong electronic music program as well, both here at the middle school. And this has been the perfect environment for that. It's still better to have your teacher in person. It's a lot easier to go over someone's shoulder and move a mouse and show them, oh, go here, go here, go here. But certainly it lends itself to some of those online independent creations better than some of our other courses do. So we've been able to use some different programs to make that happen. And it's pretty incredible to see how that's been flourishing and growing through this time.
It's been tough through this COVID thing, getting through this will be so, I can't wait to hear a full band. I mean, live, having all the students that are in a certain band standing there playing their instrument and having some type of a blend. And of course, it's not going to be perfect at first, and we all know that if it does come back this year. Hopefully having that, that opportunity to put all of our students in whatever band they're in and have them live in front of us is not only going to be great for us as educators, but great for them as students as well. So to hear, like a blended band of the correct instrumentation, or close to it at least, not just like 4 clarinets and a tuba, but actually everything that goes in between that, What do you think?
The last thing I have to say is that I just hope, and I think that they do, that the families around us recognize the importance of music through this pandemic. And I just hope that, families and parents keep enrolling their students in our great program because it's what makes this community special and this district special.
I really believe that even though our skills may backslide a little bit here, I think the passion for the opportunities to create live music together and share with one another and with our community, I really feel like that's being fueled by this pandemic now. And when we have the opportunity to do it again, I don't think it's going to be that difficult to make up lost ground, because I think the passion and the desire for it will be even stronger.
I just want to add one more thing. I want to dovetail on that too, because in my specific, like my specific situation, I think it has shown students that, we're human, I'm not as good at technology as Mr. Stork or Mr. Ellison, and I'll get through it, but, I'm going to make some mistakes along the way. And again, I think it shows the students that I'm only doing this. I'm exposing this human side of me because I care enough about you that I want you to understand that that's how much I care about you, is I'm allowing you to understand I'm not that good at certain things. You know, like in the past, we maybe did not have to show that vulnerability. In my specific situation, it's been shown. So, and again, like, it's okay. You know, that's what it is. That's who I am. I still care enough about the musicians in the program to show them that I'm human. I think that that's something that maybe brings us a little bit closer to the student, I hope.